Hello everyone, happy Saturday, and today I'm going to be talking about why I will be failing my 2026 TBR. Welcome back. My name is Caitlin, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about my 2026 TBR that I set at the end of last year and why I'm going to be failing it. Looking at my 2026 TBR recently, and not necessarily for a matter of being slow with it, but more so just some of these books I don't think I'm necessarily that interested in anymore. I did 20 books, so there were 20 books on my 2026 TBR, and some of them I have read already, some of them I haven't, some I own, all of those different things, and I just wanted to get into that today and talk about it. So I'm going to go down the list in just the order that I had written them. There is not really a particular order, but I will say the first 14 are already have been released, and then the last 6 were new releases of 2026. So that's kind of the only difference in the way I ordered them. But I wouldn't say necessarily that the order I did list them in was my priority. So anyway, let's dive straight into it. So the first book on my 2026 TBR, I have my laptop down here if you see me looking down at all, was The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. And I have already read this one. I read this in March of this year. I did really enjoy it. I gave it, I believe, a 4.25 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me, but I really enjoyed our main character. I loved the structure of the book. If you don't know, The Correspondent follows our main character, Sybil, and she is a really big letter writer. So the entire book is told through her correspondence, mostly letters, but there are some emails. I don't think there was any other platform really, but letters and emails. And you are just seeing her life through these different messages. The thing that's interesting is when I guess any of the letters really, you don't know who's writing it until the end. You'll see who it's to at the top because of just the delivery address. But sometimes it's fun to kind of be oh, who was writing this? What storyline are we picking back up? I will say in the beginning, it took a minute to kind of remember who these different characters are just because of the format that you're getting the story in. Sometimes it just wasn't super easy to be oh, that's who this person is. But yes, I have already read The Correspondent. Great read and would totally recommend. It's also a very quick read, one, because of the format, and also I don't think it's even 300 pages. So the next book on my 2026 TBR is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. And this is one that I have very little faith that I will get to. I put this on my list because I have been more into romantasy and fantasy recently, but the more I've been reading it, I am wondering if I just am more of a romantasy person and just enjoy that banter that might come with a enemies to lovers situation. Because I'm reading the Throne of Glass series right now, and I'm definitely enjoying it, but I almost feel when I get into later, of a fantasy series like that, and the books are longer, I don't know, I almost just feel I'm doing it to get it done. Even if I do end up enjoying my time, I feel the whole time I'm just focused on remembering different details and people, and honestly just making my way through the book. So I don't know if I want to do Mistborn. I know Brandon Sanderson is a huge fantasy person, and I feel I put this on my list because I just feel he could potentially open up a whole new world of fantasy for me. But there's just been something about longer books recently that have just been giving me, I don't know, almost just a slumpish vibe through them. I don't want to just feel I need to get through a book when I'm reading it. And for whatever reason, recently, longer books have been doing that for me. And I know Mistborn, I believe the first one isn't super long. I'm not sure. But I just know realistically, at the end of the day, Mistborn is no longer really at the top of my radar. So that's one that I don't think I'm going to get to. The next one, however, I have on my 2026 TBR is Mary Jane. And I forget who the author is. I don't have it written down right now. But I've heard about this book on and off over the last couple of years on BookTube. I think it was a bigger thing a couple of years ago at this point. But I believe Mary Jane is pretty much a story following, I think, a wealthy, older teenager who's just sort of coming of age and getting exposed to all of these new things that she grew up just Did I already say this? Very sheltered. So I don't know. I just really think I would enjoy the story, and it seems like a really good summer read. So I'm really hoping to maybe get to it this summer. Anytime I've tried looking for it in the bookstore, however, they haven't had it, even at like a big Barnes & Noble. So that'll probably be a book I need to order if I do really want to make it a priority. But I would still really like to get to that one this year. The next one I have on my list is Dance of Thieves, and I have to get to this book this year. That is one of the longest standing books on my physical TBR, and for no good reason. The only reason I haven't read it yet is because when I have a decent amount of books on my physical TBR, I'm hesitant to start a series where I don't at least have the next book, because I just feel like I should be reading the books that I have and then, like, you know, not necessarily buying a new one. But it just doesn't matter. I need to read Dance of Thieves, and if I want to buy the next book in the series, just go ahead and buy it, because it's not like I'm not buying other books anyway. So that is one I have to get to in 2026. After that, I had Lovely War on my 2026 TBR, which I did already read. I bought that at the end of 2025, so it was already on my physical TBR. I've read it. Another one that I really enjoyed, again, not quite a 5-star, which it was a potential 5-star prediction, but I do think I still gave it a 4.25 stars. That book was about World War II, and it's kind of told through the perspectives of different Greek gods and goddesses. I believe Persephone, maybe, Hades, Apollo. So just kind of based off of what god or goddess is telling that part of the story, you can kind of guess what direction that chapter might take. So that was interesting. And there are 2 different love stories that you're following, and it was just a really well told story. So I enjoyed that one and would definitely recommend. The next one on my list is The God of the Woods, and I would still really like to get to this one. I don't have it physically, and every time I see it in the bookstore, I am a little hesitant to buy it. I just feel like I've heard vastly different views on it. What made me really kind of want to add it back again, just meant to my mental TBR at the end of last year, was of course Taylor Swift's Eras Tour documentary, where she was listening to the audiobook. And I don't know, like, the people that I watch on BookTube who I have very similar taste to, some of them have loved it and some of them have hated it. So it really is interesting that even with people that share similar book tastes, they still have varied thoughts on this. So I would really like to get to it, but it's definitely one that I've been putting off at the same time. So the next one I had was Us Against You by Frederick Bachman. This is the second book in the Beartown trilogy, and I have read that. I think I read it maybe in January or February, which I'm really glad to have gotten to it. I actually think I enjoyed Us Against You better than Beartown, and I think that's a little bit of a hot take. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I really want to finish out the Beartown trilogy. Unfortunately, clearly we are now in May, so knowing myself, I'm not sure if I'm going to push this book off now until December or January of next year, just because, again, mood, seasonal reader, Beartown is definitely a winter read in my head. And if you don't know, the original book Beartown, it follows a really small town in, I believe, Sweden. And really the whole town is really just obsessed with hockey, and you're following how hockey just affects everything else in the town. Friendships, relationships, politics, even the economy. So in this small town, hockey just becomes a way bigger thing than hockey, and something tragic happens leading up to a really big game of theirs, and that just kind of sends the whole rest of that story and the rest of the series into motion. Beartown can definitely be read as a standalone, so if you're not wanting to get committed to a trilogy, by no means do you have to. But Frederick Bachman just has a really cool way of writing. It's very different from other books that I've read, and I would definitely recommend. I don't believe I've read any other Frederick Bachman's work yet, but I have My Friends physically, and I really want to get to that soon as well. Honestly, probably this summer as well. But that's off topic. We're only talking about my 2026 TBR, which I did get to Us Against You, and I'm very happy about that. I think that was also like a 4.5-star read for me. So Of the books that I have read on my 2026 TBR, they've been highly rated. The next one I have on my list is The Kite Runner, and I definitely hope to get to this one this year. I have it. I'm very interested in it. I think it'll be a really interesting story and different than what I've read before. So there's really no reason why I shouldn't read that this year. The next one is On a Quiet Street. And I had added this one because I had heard really good things about it. And I used to be a really big mystery thriller reader. And I feel like over the last few years, I've kind of gone away from that a little bit. And so and it's also on Kindle Unlimited. So I added that to, like I said, just sort of get back into the genre a bit and force myself to potentially read it. So On a Quiet Street is one of those where I'm not rushing to get to it. If I just want to complete as much of my 2026 TBR as possible, obviously I will read it. And I already have it downloaded on my Kindle. I think maybe even at the end of last year, I might have started a chapter or two. Like, there was no reason why I stopped reading it. I wasn't fully committed. I don't know. Sometimes I'll just start something between books because I don't know what else to read. So that one, On a Quiet Street, we're probably at about a 50-50 right now. The next one on my list is Assistant to the Villain. That is one I added because it's just been on my radar for so long at this point. This is another one that's also on Kindle Unlimited. This is more, I don't know if it's cozy fantasy per se, but almost like a funny fantasy, I think, at least just from what I've heard people explain. And I think how much you enjoy that aspect of it will really influence what you think of the rest of the book. Because like, I think some people end up giving it just a solid 3.5 stars because it was a good time and there was nothing wrong with it necessarily. And then I've seen some people just absolutely love it because of that sort of unique aspect in a fantasy world. So this is another one. Actually, earlier this year I started, and I do think I have made it about 10% in. And I remember it enough where I don't think at this point I would restart it. And again, no reason why I sort of soft DNF'd this. It was just more so, I think I was tandem reading potentially the Throne of Glass books. And again, just sort of like a quick Kindle, I don't know what I'm going to read, so I'll look at this. But I didn't want to be reading 3 fantasy books at a time. And I was really mainly focusing on that tandem read. So kind of have sort of put down Assistant to the Villain, but it was definitely interesting what I've read so far, and I'd be curious to see where it goes. The next one on my list is A Carne, and I think it's by Lynette Noni actually, and I really want to get to this one. I feel like this could maybe be the closest feeling to like a Harry Potter read that I can get today. So I do want to get to that one. And this again is another book that I have never seen in person yet. So if I do, like I said, want to make this more of a top priority, I will probably have to order it at some point. But in my head, this is probably more of like a fall read rather than summer. After A Carne, I have The Will of the Many on there, and I will be reading that. I'm actually currently reading that, which I think I'm going to give you guys a little reading vlog on this. So clearly actively in the middle of it, and I have no plans on DNFing it at this point, so that one will be read. The next one is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren, and I that one will get read this year. I have it on my physically. I, in my last TBR video, was mentioning that at this point I'm putting it off a little bit just because I really want it to be a summer read, a paradise read, one may say. So that one will definitely be happening within the next couple of months. After that, I have Once There Were Wolves on here, and I added this to my TBR after reading Wild Dark Shore at the end of last year, because Wild Dark Shore, I think that was maybe my top book of 2025. I absolutely loved it. The setting, the ending, just honestly, really every aspect. I flew through it. It was just so good to me. And so just when I looked up that author's backlog, Once There Were Wolves was one of them, and it is also on Kindle Unlimited. So I haven't necessarily gravitated towards it quite yet, But just based off of everything else, this really should be something that I should try to get to this year. For me to get to, I already have it downloaded, so that is one that I should be getting to still. Those were the 14 books that have already been released. Now the next 6 are books that are new releases of 2026. The first one on there is Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune, and I'm so excited because as I'm filming this, it comes out on Tuesday. So I will probably be buying it very soon, even though I probably shouldn't. But that will certainly be read this summer, without a doubt. The next one was The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez, which I have already read. It is featured in a reading vlog that I posted recently. That one, the trope for this book is boyfriend's best friend, which is a bit hard to get behind. That was a very interesting read. I loved the writing and the acts of service, but again, hard trope to really justify. So I have read The Night We Met. The next one was In Her Own League by Liz Tom Ford, and I also have already read this one. This was actually such an exciting physical purchase for me because I was at a wedding in Georgia, and as I'm looking around the bookstore, all of a sudden I think I see In Her Own League, but it was before it had come out. And this bookstore apparently had buy a book and you can bring home a free ARC copy. So In Her Own League, I own an ARC copy, which is so cool because I don't have ARCs. And the ARC copy was signed. So that was such an exciting purchase for me. I also really enjoyed the book. There were some just communication gaps where, for their age, I was like, come on guys, we can do a little bit more than this. But I loved seeing the characters from the Windy City series show up in there, and it was just a great time overall. The next one is The Someday Garden by Ashley Poston, and I think this comes out in June. I'm not sure, but honestly, another one that, like Our Perfect Storm, will be bought and read pretty immediately. I love Ashley Poston. I've read all of her backlog. Honestly, I think my favorite is A Novel Love Story, which people were not loving. But I don't know. I ate it up. It was my first 5-star read of, was that last year or 2 years ago? Now I can't remember when that came out. But it was my first 5-star of whatever year I read it. Okay, I think I did read it last year, but it came out 2 years ago. Anyhow, I love Ashley Poston. I cannot wait for The Someday Garden. The name alone, the cover, I have no idea what it's about, to be honest with you, but I don't need to. The next one on my list was Just Friends by Haley Pham, and I did read that one already. I have watched Haley since we were both like 12 years old, so I obviously had to buy her book when it came out, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really cute and wholesome read. Wholesome in regard to, I guess, their relationship, but there are some heavier topics that she talks about as well. I wouldn't say this was a favorite read of mine for this year or anything, but it was a really good, sweet time, and I think I gave it a 3.5 stars. And last but not least, my final book on my 2026 TBR is Burn of the Everflame by Penn Cole, which I think comes out July 14th. And I really do think I'll get to that one this year. My only hesitation is just the fact that it's probably going to be a really long book. So just, I don't know, if I'm not in the mood to pick up a long fantasy book, there could be a possibility I don't get to it. But I have really enjoyed that series so far. I know some people find our main character annoying, but I honestly haven't really felt that way. This could be my favorite fantasy romantasy series that I've read so far. I don't know what part about it gets me, but I feel like the world is a bit more unique than I've ever read. And I don't know, I love that series. So I'm really excited for Burn of the Everflame to come out. And I'm glad I've been reading this series when I have been, because I think the last book actually came out like 3 years ago at this point, and it left off on a pretty big cliffhanger. But I only finished that book, I think in December-ish, or maybe January. But I finished it within the last couple of months, knowing that we should be getting a new release this year. And I only say should because I think that there has been a few release dates announced for this book, and then it's gotten pushed back. So I'm honestly even just a little bit nervous about this release date. I'm hoping it sticks, and we do actually get Burn of the Everflame. So yeah, honestly, I will probably get to that book this year, but if I don't, it would just be because of its size. So, and those are the 20 books that I have on my 2026 TBR and why I have either gotten to them already, do think I will this year, or not really on my radar anymore. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to get to more of these books soon and maybe include them in some reading vlogs. And if you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in a future video. Bye.